Hello. Thank you for joining me today on Live with a Purpose. I want to talk to you today about counting the cost. Count the cost. This is what Jesus said. He spoke about this in the book of Luke, chapter 14. And I'd like to just read a portion of that. It says starts from 25 to 33, but I'll read from 27. It says, "For whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.'" And it continues from there. Jesus was talking about people planning things out not well, or perhaps not planning things out at all, or just perhaps doing window shopping. I was thinking of a testimony, an advice that someone gave an atheist that was looking to Jesus. He had looked into Christianity. He didn't believe it. He was trying to disprove it. And more, he found that Jesus is real. His love and his salvation is real. And he was thinking about how far in he could go. And he was told, if you're not going to give everything to Jesus, don't give anything at all. Initially, my first reaction when I heard this was, well, that's kind of rough. I mean, why are we trying to dissuade people from the gospel of Jesus Christ, the good news? But actually, she was correct. The Lord depends on us to be his representatives on earth, to be his ambassadors, his eyes, his feet, his hands. And we're either going to be all in for Jesus or we're not going to be at all. You see, if we're not all in for Jesus, that means we're still holding on to ourselves. We're holding on to the things we want, not the things that please God, that bring him glory. You see, if God is the creator of the world, if he knows all things, if he sent his only son to die for us so that we may be in fellowship and family with him forever in eternity, then he knows what's best. We think we do, but we don't. And so we need to learn to trust. And so it reminds me of, and I've had this on occasion in the past, where really before the widespread use of credit cards, where you go to a grocery store or somewhere else and you're at the counter and you're now counting because you have so much in your pocket and you're trying to count to see if you have enough to pay for it. Maybe you start thinking things out, and maybe it gets a little embarrassing because people are looking at you. Well, because of credit cards, sometimes we don't notice if we even have enough. That's why many Americans, I believe it's more than half of Americans, are in debt, because we just put it away somewhere and we don't have to think about it until we have to pay for it. And when we do, we just pay for it a little bit at a time. It's easier if we just walk around with cash, because then you know what you have and what you don't have. You know what you have for the week, you know what you have for the month, and so you don't overspend because you can't pay for it. I was thinking also of the book of Mark. In the book of Mark, chapter 8, from verses 34 to 38, Jesus tells his disciples this after Peter acknowledges that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. And a little after that, he says he's going to go die. And then he says, then Jesus called the crowd along with his disciples and said to them, if anyone wants to be my follower, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life because of me, because of the gospel, will save it. For what benefit is it for a person to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his life? What can a person give in exchange for his life? For if anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. God requires all of our attention. Now, that doesn't mean we have to pray and be in church and study the Bible 24/7, 365. God knows that we have families, that we have work, that we have things to do. But we need to set time apart and say, God has to have priority over my life, over my schedule, over my finances, over my friends, over my family, over my ideas. I want to know what he knows. God knows all truth. God knows what is best. God knows what is perfect, what is good for me. He knows what he needs me to do. And I just need to rely on him. So I think we should take into account to count the cost. What is it going to cost me? Well, it's going to cost me everything. And yet I gain eternity, fellowship with God forever. This life is temporary anyway. And God is not trying to cheat me out of anything. He's trying to bring me into his life. He's trying to show us who he is. He's trying to get us to enjoy serving him and having fulfillment, having a purpose, having meaning, being glad, being happy. Serving God brings happiness, brings joy by his Holy Spirit who dwells in us. So I want to invite you today to count the cost, to reflect on whether or not you're giving all you have to the Lord, or you're just putting it away and just out of sight, out of mind, and just sort of paying as you go. God requires all of us. This is a hard saying, but this is what God requires. Thank you for joining me on Live with a Purpose.